So I'm pretty nervous about doing this. It's not scripted. I pretty much don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to tell you how I fell in love with my body, how I went from being just totally disgusted by it and freaked out by my own reflection, and how I came to accept it and care for it and deeply nurture it. I'm not saying that it's perfect. I'm not saying that I don't have bad thoughts about my body or negative thoughts about my body. I definitely have to deal with my own mind every day, but where I came from and where I am today, they're so polar opposite that I think talking about it, hopefully it may help to someone out there. That's the intention behind doing this. So I think that my weirdness around my own body started when I was pretty young. Apart from just growing up in a culture of TV and magazines and adverts all showing women that you're not complete unless you buy something or do something to change, I just had the sense that I wasn't really fitting in my friendship groups or fitting in anywhere, and I put that down to how I looked. That I wasn't one of the popular girls because I wasn't pretty enough. I didn't develop until really later in my teens, so I felt really sort of flat and meh, and had mousy hair. I was like 9 when I first coloured my hair, but that was to fit into a part of a Spice Girls thing that me and some friends did. So I wanted to look like Posh Spice at one point in my life. There you go, fun fact. I didn't start dieting until I was about 15, 16. So my mum, I love you mum, she was trying out these different diets to lose weight. And we tried out this detox diet by Carol Vorderman together. And I still have that book. Some of the recipes in there are actually really good. But anyway, we were doing this diet together, this detox thing, and it was my first introduction into, wow, if I eat differently, then I not only feel different, but I also may look different. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, by the way. I just think that at the time when I didn't feel like I was okay just the way I was, I just correlated changing my diet with losing weight, and that then escalated into eating less equals losing weight, and losing weight equals beauty and acceptance and being attractive to the opposite sex. And yeah, it just snowballed. I got into starving myself, so not eating very much for days and days, and then I would just eat tons and would then start to find my weight fluctuating, and so I got more controlling with my food and would like just get so picky with it and so counting, obsessive with calories and with my weight. I would weigh myself like 3 times a day, and I was 17. So because I was binging, that was the drain. I didn't want to do that, so I started purging. I was throwing up by sticking my fingers down my throat. Oh god, and my mum definitely knew. My mum knew because she was working at a ward for kids with eating disorders at the time. So I was showing classic signs clearly, and she tried to talk to me about it several times. I think when I was about 18, I actually went to the doctor. Finally, because I was constipated and I had really bad stomach aches and I just felt really terrible and I kept getting sick. And so I went to the doctor. He basically put me on a program to, which I think is called STEPS. I don't know. But it was this program for teenagers with eating disorders. And I never went. because I didn't identify with having an eating disorder at the time. Also, I just didn't want to be told to do anything different because I still wanted to lose weight. I still thought I was fat. I was probably a size 6 at the time and I didn't think my body was perfect enough, so I wanted to change. So I headed off to uni, and because I didn't have any parents to kind of tell me what to do, suddenly had all this freedom, my behaviour escalated and the way that I felt about myself got even more insecure. And yet there was a part of me that just knew it wasn't what I needed or what I wanted. I felt so controlled by the way that I felt about food that I was starting to look for solutions. And by the time that I finished uni, I was very ready to let go of the purging. But even though I wasn't engaging in that part of bulimia anymore, I was still going through cycles of dieting and binging. And there were times when I honestly felt like it was never going to stop. And that was really, really tough. Because the thing is that you don't really know who to talk to when you're going through something like that. Because who's gonna get it if you say, I am scared of putting on weight, even though I'm probably at the lower end of my BMI normal, if not under. I have this really emotionally charged relationship with food where I love it and hate it at the same time, and I'm utterly confused about what it is that I'm supposed to be eating. And every time that I look in the mirror, I'm ashamed and I feel guilty about the body that I have. I was constantly comparing myself to other women. I was so deeply insecure about me not being right. It was like I really wanted to rip my shell off. And I dreamed about waking up looking like a completely different person. So when this started to change for me was I had finally sought out therapy for the anxiety that I was feeling, the depression that I was feeling, and it was working, and I realised I wanted to be that kind of support and light and source for someone else. So I looked for courses and I found the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and I loved it. I loved studying at the IIN. And at the same time, I had this internal pressure still, even though there was that spark in me that was calling me to a higher perspective of myself and that deep knowing that I was actually enough. Even though that was starting to get louder, there was still this other pattern that was running, which was the perfectionism. And during 2016, when I was studying, I also started to feel the effects of burnout. So I was trying to eat healthily and exercise, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't. Every time that I decided to start again on Monday, it would trigger a massive binge. And at the end of 2016, I totally burnt out. And it was awful. I found myself at complete rock bottom. I put on probably about 3 stone in the space of like 7-8 months. It was a very short period of time to go from a size 8 to a curvy size 14. Here I was in this new body, and it felt weird and uncomfortable and strange because I'd been so afraid of putting on weight for such a long time. And I think being that low, that wiped out, that desperate, I started finally realising, after hearing it from so many different sources and reading about it and kind of understanding it logically, I finally got that the only thing that was going to help me heal was self-love and loving and owning totally my own body. And it felt so alien to me, even though I had talked about it and I had definitely learnt all the rhetoric around what it meant to accept and love your own body. The truth was that it was so different to anything that I'd ever really experienced. And so it became a daily practice of looking in the mirror, just completely butt naked, coming in and out of the shower and just looking at my body from the eyes of a higher power, from the eyes of the universe, from source, this universal love, and just drinking in the sight of my own body. That was like the first step for me. And I wasn't ready to say I love you to my reflection, but I started with something like, I'm learning to accept you, or I'm going to take care of you today. And the other thing that I did was I stopped restricting or trying to confine what I was eating. If I wanted something, then I would just have it. And I would start to really notice my hunger and notice where my cravings were coming from, and when I was really lonely, or when I was stressed out, or when I was anxious, and see if I could find other ways of grounding or working through that emotion other than food, or burying myself in wine or sugar. And it was a few months later, and I hadn't really lost weight, but I found myself in a yoga class, and it was a class filled with all sorts of different bodies of women and a big mirror on the side, and I was in some kind of contorted position, and I look over at myself in the mirror, and then I look around at all the other women's bodies, and I look back at mine, and I go, oh my god, I fit. I have a really beautiful body, and it's perfect. It's not perfect, but it's perfect. And it was this overwhelming rush of, oh my god, I get it. So 2017 for me became this year of really understanding what it meant to accept and love my body on a daily basis, and how to make a practice out of it, and how to notice my own thoughts around my body, and noticing especially that if I was having a negative thought about my body, then it didn't really have anything to do with my body. So this whole pattern cycle that I got into around shaming my own body and being horrendously mean to myself and getting obsessed with food and weight loss and looking perfect had nothing really to do with anything about how I looked or about food. I was using it as a distraction to take my mind away from other uncomfortable, deeper thoughts. So it was really a healing year for me. I feel like it was this giant emotional detox where I was becoming really, really aware of my inner world and really taking care of that, rather than making this whole exterior like something other than what it was. And I started noticing too that I really wanted to function and feel better rather than just look better. It's like this fire had got ignited, and I wanted to feel the best that I could feel. I was getting over my adrenal fatigue and I wanted to start moving my body again, but in a way that made me feel really good rather than forcing it because I was trying to lose weight. So what then became difficult was that unconsciously I was becoming scared of losing weight. So that was a really interesting thing for me to go through, because I was terrified of gaining weight at one point, and now suddenly I was scared of my body changing at all, because I'd become comfortable and had learned how to love my body at this new size. So if I trained and I slept well and I was getting consistent with all the self-love rituals and self-care that I was, talking about and putting in place, the potential of losing weight was, oh my god, that means that I'm kind of wiping this whole uncomfortable with my body at this kind of at the way it is right now. Oh, I can't even speak. This is hard to talk about. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I became afraid that if I gained lean muscle and lost weight, then I would become obsessed again about my looks, and I would place all of my power and value into this meat sack that I have randomly found myself in this life. And so I would self-sabotage. Towards the end of 2017, when I was finding this fire again, this passion for moving my body, I would self-sabotage, and then I would maybe, go move my body and go to the gym and go cycling and go running and do yoga, and then I would just stop and not do it and not find the motivation and have no idea why it was so difficult to get consistent. So it's only when I realised that my body is gorgeous and worth love and acceptance, no matter what it looks like. Whether I put on weight, or whether I lose weight, or whether I gain muscle, or whether I have absolutely no muscle at all, I'm just a flabby, doughy ball. It doesn't matter, because the most important thing is that my self-love and my value and my identity as a human being, as a woman, as a soul, is radiating from within, and it's radiating from this infinite source of love. And the more I stay connected to that center of wisdom and power, the more I realize that my body is here for me to experience this life through, to express myself through, to learn through, and it should be celebrated every day, not forced to be one way or the other. And my body will mold itself to my habits and to the way that I think and the way that I feel. It's not up to me to try and control or change or judge what my body is going to do with all the nourishing, nurturing habits that I put in place. My job as the inhabitant of this body is to respect it, to listen to it, to honour it, and to give it everything that it needs, so that I get to live, so that I get to really express who it is that I am and what it is that I came here to do. So if my body is the vessel through which I get to live my purpose, then it completely changes my perspective on how it looks. Because sure, I can take pride in my body, I can take pleasure in my body, and I can enhance it and love on it with makeup and with funky clothes and with whatever hairstyle I choose. I get to decorate my body and be creative with it. But if I'm doing that from a place of I feel fearful that without doing this then I'm ugly or not worthy, then internally it's not coming from a place of love. It's not coming from that safe, calm place of I'm good. But if it's coming from a place of joyful expression, from I'm just being me and my body reflects who I am on the inside, then it just becomes so much more free and so much more fun. And honestly, I have felt this change my relationship with my partner, my relationships with my friends and my family. I no longer feel like I'm comparing myself with anyone. I don't feel like I don't fit. I don't feel like I have to change to be someone that I'm not. And I'm excited about how this is affecting my business because I feel like I'm ready to be seen. I'm ready to show the world who I am without having all the noise of you're not pretty enough, you're not beautiful enough, you're not whatever enough on the outside to go talk on video or go to a live or take pictures or selfies. It's a really interesting and cool and fun journey to be on. I don't know if there's anything else that I should have said or needed to talk about. Just take it slow. Don't feel like this has to be hurried. Every step of the way is beautiful and right and exactly where you need to be. And I will leave a little list of sort of resources that might be really helpful below. If you want to reach out to me, then my social media handles are here. So Instagram and Facebook. And yeah, I would love to talk to you. I'd love to connect with you because I know for me, I just needed someone to understand what I was going through and not feel so lonely. So thanks for watching, and I would love to see you in the next video. Okay. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.